layering sounds can make or break a track. Have you wondered how pros create huge sounds without the mud? That is what we are looking for in this video. In just few minutes, you will learn tricks to beef up your sounds while keeping them crystal clear. One of the most common things to layer a sound is actually improving the stereo image. Listen to this. Cool sound, but it's right in the middle, right? So maybe we want to improve the stereo image a little bit, so we have a bit fuller sound. The reason you want to layer the sound instead of trying to make the sound you have stereo is probably making it unison or just adding reverbs and so on. For example, using a bit detuning, a bit hyperdimension. We definitely use that punchiness of the sound, don't we? Right? So layering is a very good solution. The one thing to remember with the stereo image, when it comes to stereo, the higher you go in the frequency range, the more sensitive the ear gets. Right? So you want to put your sound a bit on the higher end, especially if you still want the fat sound but fuller image. In this case, because I don't want to change the sound too much, what you can do, find something that is similar to the sound you are looking for. In this case, I found something like this. It is in unison 2 modes, so one oscillator to the right, one oscillator to the left, so it's very stereo. And still plucky sound, right? It's coming from my Forge preset pack. Check that out if you haven't. Now look how this sound improves. The solo, they can hear easier. This. Right? We can even increase it like this, like 1 octave up. Right? Immediately we get the fuller image. I feel like the dark is better. Layering doesn't always mean that you literally layer it with another instrument, but you can layer it with effects like delays and reverbs. So most common things that you will see actually delay, layering with delay, or adding a delay and layering under it. In this case, you can use either sidechain compression to duck the sound when the original sound hits, or take something like this that is already ducking function on it. Right? We still have that very punchy character, but we now have much wider image than what we had, just with 2 simple layering techniques. The part 2 is the frequency. Sometimes you have sounds that needs support in certain frequencies. A common example could be your bass line. Maybe it needs a sub or it needs a top line. Sometimes it could be your lead sound. Sometimes it could be your hats. So what you're looking for when you're layering things is like finding a piece, like a puzzle piece, fit right into the frequency that you are lacking. So you can have this bigger, fuller sound. Listen to this bass line. Do you hear it? Let me tell you, you don't, because this bass line actually needs sub. There's nothing on the sub line. So in this case, the purpose is clear. Let's make that sub so that our bass line feels stronger. For sub bass, I'm going to use UJam's Subcraft. There's a new synth. This is made just for the sub bass, and it is an interesting synth. This part of the video is also sponsored by them, but let me show you how this thing works. So it comes with like these initial loops you can play around, right? So you can just play as a loop. And this part basically helps with different timbre of the bass, and then you can really change the loops here as well. And then add effects. This is cool. And then if you don't want to, for example, remove the kick. Pretty cool bass, I will say. And if you want to go in and then change the length and so on, right? Make it yours. This bass line to work, let's listen one more time. We need something a bit with the body, but it shouldn't take too much space from the high end. So something a bit more like a punchy, bassy, sub-bassy, but still clean enough. Now I'm going to duplicate this one as well, because this is the final version I made. Rather than playing loop, let's play our own pattern. First, I'm going to bring down the effect. This, right, is like a kicky, punchy. You can completely remove it. Or find a sweet spot, like probably too punchy. And then let's find the, like that, right? Somewhere around here. Like a bit dirt on top here. Cool and punchy, I like this one. Now, if you play together, we have this. Without, we lost all the sub bass power. And then we have this. You can hear the sound, right? We are not done yet, but you need to actually make them really fit together. If you take a look at our top bass, again, remember we are thinking about frequencies, like how can we make them like a puzzle pieces so that they fit each other properly. this sound is pretty heavy here, right? Around 86 Hz and upwards. So the other bass will be more on the bass. So if you go there and put an EQ, cut a bit high, so I want it darker. Probably bring this part down. And so it's more like a sub bass than bass, like. Right? You can't even. I don't want to take punchiness so much, but something like that. And of course, sidechain to kick. In hum side, I didn't show you, but there is also another layer going for the exact same idea. So if I remove this final piece here from the bass, it is actually like this. And you feel like, oh, there's something missing on the top end, maybe something on top, right? That is the same idea here, but this time we are going much higher. This sound here, feeling really top layer of the bass. Even though it's a very tiny sound, it just fits to the bass, right? Again, we are thinking about frequencies, different parts. The one thing that you should consider as well, that when you are layering things, you don't need to always keep the same pattern. So for example, in this case, I'm feeling like, okay, top end, I can definitely play with the pattern. Like you see, I'm changing it up and down and less notes. Almost gives a groove, right? Hopefully this makes it a bit clear to how to think about the frequency when you are layering. Me and Oscar having an AD workshop next week, 17th of October. It is a whole day event. It will be super cool. If you want to learn more about it, links and tickets are on the description below. And if you're in London or in Helsinki, I have upcoming shows. If you want to forget about music production and come dance with me, the links for that also in the description. Let's go back to production now. The third layering reason and technique is transient control. Extremely common method, very useful at the same time. Listen to this. Cool sound, cool arpeggio, cool track, but needs a bit punch, isn't it? That plucky sound can use some transient at the beginning, some transient layer. One of the common form of doing this actually would be using like some type of sample, percussive sample to layer under the sound that you have to get initial hit of your melody. The easiest way to do that, for example, we can copy the original sound. I use Serum, so I can use Serum for layering as well. What I'm going to just do is actually go for the initial preset, turn off oscillator and just turn on the noise. That means that now when I play it and turn it in the sample one-shot mode, it will sound like this, right? We can make the envelope very plucky. Like that. But in many cases, this could be enough. You can just EQ the low end. Something like this, right? Let's try. Right? The other thing that you oftentimes see actually, instead of using just a noise, you can go and use a real, like a kick sample or the snare sample or whatever that fits the track. Like these are much punchier. Right? And you can take the sound like this, actually distort even more. Something like a diode. Right? And cut the lows. And add the envelope to the gain. So we have this like. Now this is punchy and transient. Now let's take a look how much we need actually. See that? Three. It just cuts through the mix, right? Just small tiny transient that can help you out. Layering for the color. This is probably the last one and obviously most popular one, and this is more or less what people think when think about layering. So you have a sound, you are not 100% happy with how the timbre is, and you add other sounds to reach to a fuller or different or weirder sound, right? The main idea is, for example, you have a sound like this. This is again coming from my Forge Techno preset pack, simple sorted, right? The trick with layering for coloring is finding different type of sounds. How can you find or be sure about different type of sound you obviously should be hearing. If you are not hearing, you can simply think about different waveforms. The sawtooth, for example, have both even and odd harmonics, and the square wave, for example, would only have odd harmonics, simply because of that square wave sounds different from the saw. And if you combine them together, you get a sound in between square and saw. The main idea of coloring is this: you find a sound that maybe you want to get character from and layer that way. For example, if I layer this sawtooth with another sawtooth, let's find sawtooth based sound here. Let's take this sound, obviously another sawtooth, let's layer together. Probably the only thing that we will get is the image, or a bit wider stereo image, simply because this sound is a bit stereo. Yeah, it sounds pretty much same, isn't it? So when layering for color, look for sounds that different from your original sound, that similar to what you had in mind. For example, if I wanted to make this sound a bit more interesting and different, I will definitely pick something that initially most likely a different waveform or different real timbre. So if you go pick something, for example, there still be a bit Slavic character, but there are also sine harmonics. It sounds different, and look how this adds to the color of the original sound, right? Really cool sound immediately. The one thing when you are layering for the color is actually deciding which part of each sound you would like to have. For example, for a saw sound like this, listen to it. And listen to the other sound, do the same thing. Just listen to the bands. Try to see which parts you really enjoy much. Super cool here, super easy choice. I can almost live without this part one time. Like this part is, oh my god. That means now, for me, for example, we are especially focusing on 400 to 1000 Hz here. Go to EQ here. Oh yeah. And I like the sawtooth like this biting part, maybe the root as well. Now, be careful though with this type of sounds. For example, this is like pinging a lot, ringing a lot. You can use something like a bit soothe, just like bring down if something resonates too hard in some cases. I'm just gonna not cut too hard because that part is the part that I like most, but slightly so that it's not ringing too much. It's super dope. And from here, you don't need to stop. Actually, if you want to go for this type of big lead sound, you may consider, okay, this is really cool. Do I want something else? Do I want the air? I can layer with the noise, for example, different character. Do I want the body? Maybe I pull down one octave, layer with the, for example, square wave, which oftentimes tends to work very nice. Square wave has like more focused root because sawtooth has those odd and even harmonics just coming right after the root, but square wave has only odd harmonics, so you're jumping to even harmonics. Just gives more defined root key, hence works really nice for sub sounds or dark sound or deeper sounds because of that. Let's go for example, Mercurial Tones Super Square. I think cat square is, yeah, this will do. That means that now I can focus this part, right? And even think about, consider what I said earlier, maybe make it a bit pluckier so that together, right? That the body comes in without making it muddy. Super dope. Layering is cool, but it's not the only thing that you need. For example, how can you make your reverb sound better? Let me show you here.